Radhe. Haribol. Welcome. Hope everyone can hear me well. So, first episode officially of Wake Up in the Dream with Rasik Swami, your host. I'll explain it first a little bit, and we're here in our New York ashram with our friends, guests, students here. What am I talking about when I say wake up in the dream? So I want to be very clear. This life is real, according to our gurus and our scriptures. Mostly I'm drawing from the wisdom tradition of my gurus' lineages, the East, especially the Achinta Bhed Abheda school, which means inconceivable oneness and difference of all reality. So it's a very mysterious tradition in school, and there are a lot of stories that help us understand it. So we draw from a lot of stories and we talk about them, and as we go along, for our listeners, for our audience that's live in the most real sense here, physically present live, and live online. If you have any questions, feel free to ask along the way. Even if it's an important question coming along the way, raise your hand if you're live present and I'll talk about it if I can. Or if I'm in the middle of my flow, I'll say, okay, hold it and we'll talk later. And for any guests who pop in online, again, you can post your comments as they come up or questions or you just listen, it's okay. But I appreciate your time, and I'm going to be doing 2 live streams a week, Sunday and Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll dwell into different topics. So again, first I'm going to discuss what we're talking about and give a disclaimer. I don't recommend anyone taking any action based on my words. You can do as you like. I'm sharing the wisdom teachings of my gurus and my lineages and what's helped me in my life. But don't take any action that, take it or leave it. Whatever I'm saying, it's good for me. I've practiced it in my life. It's my guru's teachings. But spiritual knowledge is also, sometimes it's called like a knife. You can use it as a surgeon and heal. If you don't know how to use it, you can cut yourself. So spiritual knowledge is very powerful. And they say, don't drink of the well of knowledge like shallowly. It's dangerous. A little bit of knowledge is dangerous. So when I say wake up in the dream, I'm not saying this life isn't real. I'm saying it's the most real thing you have. Wake up in it is kind of like spiritual life hacks, how to improve your life. An easy way to think about it in modern terms or pop cultural terms, or something we can understand, is answering the call to adventure. Living a more purpose-filled life and a more life aligned with the best potential you can achieve. That's waking up in the dream. Because if we look at human life, we have higher reason, and so we can live better lives, you could say. An animal kind of just lives its program out. And it's bound by its karma. And human beings, we're also bound to our karma to a great extent, but we can create positive change, and there are ways. And it's a mystery, because if you're bound by your karma, how can you change your life? But that's also part of your karma. At a certain point in your evolution, you can advance. And so here we are. Human beings means, actually, I'll just lay this groundwork. Earth is called the plane of karma. And the human species of life on Earth is also the body of karma. And this is karma as future evolution. That means creating positive cycles of growth. That's what I mean by karma. Not reactive karma, proactive karma. That's human life on Earth. You can create a better reality for yourself. And so waking up the dream, I just kind of mean how to live the best life you can in the most real way you can. I'm a very life-embracing person, life-affirming person. I say add God also, love God also, and love God most. These are different stages of bhakti. But we're not escapists. And so I'm going to talk about it, but waking up in the dream is still important. I'll give you an example from an actual dream, which means when you're sleeping at night and you're dreaming. There's techniques to do lucid dreaming. And what that means is, in the dream, you can recognize that you're dreaming, and then you can manipulate the dream. I've done it without even consciously trying to. I've had experiences. I lived in India for 16 years, and every night I'll give you one very quick one, because today I'm going to skip through many stories. I'll just draw back for a moment. Oftentimes when I give a talk, I'll kind of dwell on one story for maybe an hour and we'll really discuss it. But tonight, I'm going to kind of skip through a bunch of stories, if that's okay. So I'm going to kind of speed up my verbiage. And if you want me to slow down, just say, okay, pump the brakes. All right, so I'll give you one lucid dream that I had in India. And whether it was a lucid dream or astral projection, I would actually say it was more of an astral projection because it was very mystical. So I would sleep under the stars and the moon in our temple in Mathura. It would be very hot in the summers, and so at night we'd sleep on the roof. And in Indian roofs, generally they have flat roofs, concrete. We'd put a bucket of water out on the concrete to cool it down and then put out straw and lay on that. And every night I'd go to sleep doing Om breath work. And if you do it properly, you really get charged. And so I remember I was doing this Om breath work. It must have been 10:30, 11:30, who knows. And doing it as I was not even falling fully asleep, I kind of, you could say, had a moment where I could understand that the conscious body was separating from the physical body. We call that the subtle body, the mind, the intelligence, the ego body, and it popped out and I could see that. There I am laying down sleeping. And here's my body hovering over it. And when you're lucid dreaming like that or astral projection, you don't walk, you kind of float. You're like your own little ghost. That means you can see now the subtle realms easier. So that was waking up in the dream. Now, I'm going to finish the story, but who knows what it was. But you would call that, it wasn't a dream. It was more of an astral projection because I wasn't yet dreaming. So I'm going to tell you the rest of the story. But the point is, I was able at that point to astral project throughout the whole temple. You know how I know it's real? Because we had our top floor of our temple, and then I started going down the stairs. There's 3 stairwells, and I would sleep in a room right next to the top of the stairs. So as I'm kind of floating down the stairs, there's one flight of stairs, and you turn, and then the next flight of stairs, and then you turn. And as I turned down the 3rd flight of stairs, this little spirit creature pounced on me. And it was a little a little ghost. And it pounced at me because all of a sudden it's like, hey, why are you in my reality? You get it? No, I'm just walking up down the stairs and that's where it lives. Okay? We got someone watching live here and then watching live here. Thank you. So I'm floating down and this creature was shocked to see me. Right? Because I turn the corner and it's freaked out because why am I in its reality? Because we're living in the same time space, but it's in a different dimension. You see? And so it was probably more scared of me than I was scared of it. It's like, hey, you aren't supposed to be here. I've never taken drugs in my life, but perhaps I hear of hallucinogenic experiences where you kind of pop into a different dimension and there's spirits there like, what are you doing here? I don't know, I've heard. Anyhow, you could say that's kind of a waking up in the dream moment. So, the Vedic teachings, the Eastern traditions, the mystical traditions, they're very, life and consciousness is the greatest mystery. It's the greatest frontier of science. It's the undiscovered secrets, the seer that is unseen, and so forth. And so, we're going to be talking about this and subjects around this, and I don't want to wake up from we don't want to fall asleep and have an astral projection, because what did I do after that? I immediately came back to my body. I was like, all right, there's more to this story, but we'll not waste time in it now. Right? Another time, perhaps. If someone wants to ask a question about my ghost stories, you can do it in another class. I don't want to get diverted. The point is, I came back to my body. I woke up. If I had stayed in the astral projection, now I'm actually just a ghost hanging out with those other ghosts. You get it? Yeah. I'm not talking about becoming a ghost and waking up in that dream. That's my friends. I was talking with my friends the other day. If they're watching, they'll know. New Paltz. I said, that's BS. I meant to say BS. But it was more Indian. I said, this is BS. Right? This is not what it means to wake up in the dream. Right? I'm saying, wake up in this life and improve your life and improve other people's life. Stop living like a pre-programmed pattern forced life. Krishna says in the Gita, I believe it's 1861, but I'm not for sure. But it's a beautiful verse where Krishna says the material entities are like, the living entities are like trapped on a wheel of material nature. You know, and we're stuck on this wheel and it's moving and there's time floating around and here we are. There's a way to get out of that. It's a wisdom tradition that's taught. A lot of people say you're bound by your karma. It's true, but karma is something that you can break. You can transcend. In the Gita, Krishna teaches about God, the soul, material existence, time and karma. 5 truths. God and the soul are beyond time, material existence, and karma. Right? This is the little material existence called samsara we're in. And it's represented by time, relative time of our life, and time of the universe, and all the time cycles, relative life cycles. Okay, time's going on. And then there's the material existence, and there's all little souls filling it up. Bound by their karmas. But even though there's karma and time and material existence, the soul is still transcendental. The soul is spirit, it's conscious. The bondage to matter is the illusion. That's the illusion. We think, I am this body, now we're bound by karma. That's waking up in the dream. When you live in this life fully, purposefully, because we don't recommend, I'll go back to the beginning of the Gita, because I really love the Gita, of course, who doesn't, right? Especially for us Hindus and Christian devotees. Arjuna was one of the examples of someone who wants to escape his duties and his destiny and his work. And Krishna said, no, don't be a coward, wake up, get to work, even though if it's difficult. And it was a great moral dilemma, and he was trying to live his ethically better version of not fighting. But the point was, Krishna said, don't run away and try to escape. Do your duty, fight. But with higher knowledge, wake up from the dream, Krishna said. We're going to talk about some stories about this, all right? I'm going to draw from some pop culture because my friends tell me, you got to connect with the youths. In Hindi we say youths, the youths. Pop culture helps. So I'm going to talk a little bit about The Matrix, a great pop cultural movie reference I watched forever ago. And I'm going to talk about the Titanic ship sinking. A few references here because it's just a few interesting stories. I'm going to connect it to Christian stories. All right, so I think of this class as like I'm skipping stones over a stream. I'm going to jump around a few stories. And thank you for your patience in abiding with me. I'll try to connect it all together. All right. I want to start with one more personal story. This is when I was a kid, much before I went to India. When I was 9, I met my guru. I went to India for a month with my father. I got initiated in the Vaishnava path, the mantra initiation in the names of God. And then when I was 10, he came back in our village in California and he gave me the Brahminical initiation. And he asked me to be a monk and serve his mission. So that kind of set the charted the course for my life. And I answered the call to adventure. There was a lot of bumps along the way. I wasn't very fast. You see the hero's call to adventure. Usually people are like, take a week or so to think about it. I took about 8 years to think about it. It wasn't like overnight. I didn't actually join the monastery, and he didn't tell me to immediately join the call. He said this is like a future thing. He would always tell me, you're this tall now, when you grow up like this. Every year it would be a little less, You're this tall now, when you become this tall, and you'll join the monastery. And he used it in like visualization terms. You will be a monk and serve my mission, And then every year I'd be a little taller. And he gave me choice, but he recommended this path. So anyhow, the point is, a couple years into that call to adventure, you could say, it made me very philosophical and very introspective, you could say. It was not my life path that I would have chosen. It's waking up in the dream, right? Without my guru's call to adventure and answering it, I would have been dreaming in life, living a kind of programmed existence of my karma. Now, was it my karma to meet him and my destiny and so forth? I'm not going to get into that debate. But I had choice. I could have not answered the call, but I did. But I had a very interesting, I used to write poetry as a kid, and I would write a lot of poetry. So I wrote a poem, and Doesn't matter what the poem was, but I'll tell you the end. But I called it Walking the Dog. And I actually wasn't walking the dog, but we have dogs. And we had horses and cows and peacocks and chickens and cats, and we had a big farm. So we had this nice dog, and we would go on walks together. But he was walking me, I was walking him, I don't know. But the point is, at the end of the poem, I wrote this line which says, I am just a speck within an infinity of infinities. I am small. And so this is kind of our Hindu perspective. There's kind of two mainstream Hindu perspectives. One is the I am God perspective, and I just need to wake up to it. And the other one is that I am an infinitesimal spark of the Creator. Ultimately, we say it's one and different, and it's inconceivable. But from our perspective of devotion to God, we say, I'm just a tiny spark of existence. I'm small. And so again, when I say waking up in the dream, it doesn't mean to wake up and, oh, now I'm God and I can shape reality how I want it. We would say that's falling deeper into illusion, in our perspective. But the Achinta Beta Beta version, which is oneness and difference, is if you serve God and connect with God, then what can you do by His desire? Christ would say, faith can move mountains. Look at Krishna, he lifted Giriraj. It was his power, but he just lifted up this beautiful mountain. When he lifted up the mountain, Giriraj, to shelter his friends and his villagers when they were attacked by the thunder god, everyone was thinking different people lifted it up. Most of the villagers didn't think it was Krishna. A lot of them thought, wow, he was glorifying this great mountain, Giriraj, and look how glorious he really was. Because Krishna was saying, why are you worshiping this invisible demigod called Indra who never helps you? And even if he gives you, they say they worship him for rain. Now we're skipping stones over stories. So the villagers would worship the demigod, the Devata called Indra, who's the god of thunder and rain. And Krishna said, why are you worshiping him? He said, well, he gives us rain. He said, well, that's his job. He's like, there's one God, and God deputized him to give you rain. If he doesn't do it, he'll be punished by God. So don't pay the tax collector extra. It's like, don't tip the tax collector. That's kind of what he's saying. Don't tip the tax collector Indra. He's doing his job. Right? Better to offer your dues and your love and your devotion directly to the one God who's beyond this whole material game. You get it? The Hindu traditions that worship the millions of demigods, actually there's 33 main demigods, and then there's their deputies and so on. But the Hindu traditions that worship those devatas, the Buddhists are right, and the Muslims are right, and the Christians are right. These are not the one real God. These are like the angels and spirits who regulate material existence. If you really want to worship God, God is the beyond. God is beyond the entire material existence, the real great spirit. All the infinite universes are emanating from that great spirit, and yet it is beyond it. That's what Krishna says in the Gita. It says all existence, all potential universes, all manifestations, everything rests upon me like pearls on a thread, and yet I am transcendental to it all. This is the Gita, chapter 7. He says, everything in existence rests upon me like pearls strung upon a thread, and yet I am beyond it all, indifferent to it all, because I am in my own eternal existence beyond it. So now, what do we say? This is my personal meditation, so I want to set that intention. When I talk about waking up in the dream, I'm being very clear. Live your life properly, answer a call to adventure, live your life, your purposeful, fulfilled life, to live the best life you can, to be happy. If you can connect to God also, you'll have a much more fulfilled life. There's a famous verse that says, whatever you desire, just add God to it, and it'll be better. If you desire everything or nothing, whatever you want, just add God to it, your life will be better. And even if you don't understand what that God is, I'll get back to the Giriraj story, that's what I was saying. He says, even if you don't understand really what God is, it's okay. This is our Guru's wisdom. He would say, some people worship the mountain as God. And he said, why are you disturbing them? They're worshiping the great spirit however they can see it. You're worshiping a tree, you're worshiping a mountain, you're worshiping a river. It's better than worshiping yourself as God, because that full self-absorption leads to a certain kind of egoic desire to exploit others. Imagine you're worshiping a tree and a mountain and a river, then you have some respect for the greater life and the interconnectedness of all being. And you're closer to the Great Spirit. And then if you can go beyond that and say, oh, Great Spirit, within the tree, within the river, within the mountain, within the sky, within me, upon whom everything rests, who is before time and after time. That's what Krishna says in the Gita. I am before time, I am after time, I am during time, and I am beyond time. And how do we worship him? We worship in the deity form, in the shalagram form, in the name form. And we say God is here in his name, God is here in every being of us. Namaste, I honor the divine in you. So I am the speck within the speck. But the mystery of our Hindu teachings, this is a very secret mystery. I'll tell you, for example, Allah. Allah means the greatest. And when we talk about Islam versus Hinduism, you know what the Hindus say? God is also the smallest. So we say Allah, the greatest, the biggest. And we say God is also the smallest. And there's a verse, Anor Aniyam. Within the speck of the speck of the speck, the inner speck within that speck is God. The animating force within every atom, that is God. And upon which all existence rests, that is also God. And so this is the great mystery. I remember I was going on the walk when I was about 12, 13, and it was a cloudy day, and then all of a sudden, the clouds parted and the sun came down, and I felt very grateful. I said, thank you, God. Why? This sunlight is giving me strength and nourishment. But because I'm small, I understand that really the clouds didn't part for me. They parted for all of life. I'm just a speck within that. This is our realization. This is what I mean by waking up in the dream. Not to be God, but to be the servant of life. To be a positive force within the great tree of all existence. Because there's the danger, the ego, that thinks it's God, sees everything around it as its object of service. And then what do we end up doing in the world? Well, open the news, that's what we end up doing. Check out what's going on in the world, and that's what we end up doing when we are Alpha and Omega. When we are subject and object and controller and master, that's what we end up in. And so now, there's so many stories. I usually don't get to my stories, so I'll take a pause. Anyone have any questions so far?
I had one question very early on before you got started.
Hi, everyone. We'll take a quick pause. I have some stories I want to talk about, some very mysterious stories.
So Ayush is asking, is there fake preachers and gurus?
Of course. So we're having a quick pause now. Fake preachers and gurus. Yes, many. Yes. Okay, so we'll go ahead.
That's all.
All right, everybody ready for the next chapter, you could say? Let's breathe. Okay, relax. This is all just introduction, so I'm setting intention. Because otherwise people might not know what I'm talking about. I claim that I don't know reality. This is one big part of my claim. I claim to be on the path of ignorance. Because I'm a speck within an infinity of infinities, I don't know all reality. But I'm trying to serve reality. I believe that's a better way forward in life. I claim ignorance. My only claim to knowledge is actually not really a claim to knowledge, it's a claim to belief in my guru's teachings. Right? I live my beliefs. That means what my gurus have taught me, I believe, and then I practice it. And then whatever I realize in my life, that is what I know is real. But because I'm just a little speck, I don't claim knowledge of the infinite reality of realities, because that would be, again, arrogance. So I think ignorance is also healthy, especially for the ego. So talking about that, again, waking up in the dream, this whole idea comes from a Gita verse. It's a very beautiful Gita verse, and then we'll launch forward from that. I'm going to tell you a very few, very mystical, mysterious stories. Horrifying story, actually. And then we'll go forward. I'm going to tell you two very horrifying stories, but it's a Krishna story about the master of all mystics, and so I think it's valuable as well. So, Gita verse. Krishna says that while most beings are asleep in this world, actually the real seers are awake. So this is where I'm drawing the inspiration for this whole series, Wake Up in the Dream. That doesn't mean your life is fake. It means wake up so that you can live the best life possible. And there are techniques and tools that our teachers give that make that possible. So it's not just words. And we're actually building like a dream school to wake up. And so we'll give techniques and we'll follow up on people. And it's going to be actually like a private membership for people who are actually serious. It's not just one of those apps that you log into and, oh, I forgot to do it or not. It's like, oh, you forgot to do it, you're out of the school because you don't take it seriously. So we don't want it to be an online school. We want it to be a real life school. And we'll have our team here, and we want this to be like a real family of spiritual seekers that really care about each other's advancement in life and are really trying to progress. So that's what it's going to be. So anyhow, Krishna says that Ya Nisa, I don't like to quote too many verses, but I'll quote one here, okay? Because it's a foundational verse. Ya Nisa Sarva Bhutanam Tasyam Jagrati Samyami. Okay? This means, what is night for Sarva Bhutanam? Sarva means all, Bhutanam means living entities. So in other words, what is night for 99.99% of all living entities in this world? That is day for the Samyami, which means the self-controlled seer. Why do I say self-controlled seer? Because Samyami means self-controlled, and now the second half of the verse says Muni, a seer. Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani Sanisa Paschite Muni. So he flips it. So this is the full verse. It's 4 lines. Very mysterious statement of Krishna. What is night for all living entities is day for the self-controlled. Wake up in the dream. Become self-controlled. Then you can manipulate your reality to achieve better results. It's like you become a friend of the universe. There's a lot of techniques about this. Mindfulness, visualization techniques, law of attraction, karma, and all these different techniques. These work. Now it's a science, and it's a very risky science. So, I didn't get the results I wanted. Okay, that means you didn't have a proper teacher, and you didn't really understand the laws and the codes, and karma is also a very strong force. There's the law of attraction. There's also the law of, life is the school of hard knocks. So that's a separate topic. But first, I just want to set this verse. This is our first real episode for our podcast. So this is our intention verse, what I'm basing it on. Krishna says, what is night for the vast majority, Sarva Bhutanam, of living entities, is day for the self-controlled. And then he says, and what is day for the vast majority of living entities is night for the seer. This is his statement. So the self-controlled seer is awake when others are asleep, and asleep when others are awake. They're living in a higher dimensional reality while in this physical body. At that point, then that's when you really get the game going. That's when you really advance. So that's the intention verse. All right. So that's the intention. That's kind of like an introduction. Now I'm going to jump ahead to a very kind of intense topic, but it's following off from last night's live stream. It's a story of how Krishna wound up his whole drama in this world, the Leela, what we call, right? How he wound up his whole Leela, and it's kind of very hard to wrap your head around, but it's very mysterious, and so we're going to talk about it. Because it's one of those wake up in the dream stories. And Krishna is called the master of all mystics. So this is a master of all mystic stories. So if you look at the story of Krishna, his history, all right, it's full of these mind-boggling, amazing tales. People are like, oh, it's mythological. But Jai Shri Krishna, it's more. This is the story of God. This is the best story of God in the world. Right? It's Like in the Trinity in Christianity, we have God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and they say that's all God. But Christ said, I am still the Son. So even if it's God the Son, it's still God the Son. Krishna said, I am God the Father. He says, Pita hamasya jagato, I am the Father of all creation. And then he says, I'm also the Mother, and I'm also the Grandfather. And you don't find such statements with Ganesha. Even with Lord Shiva, doesn't make statements like this. What to speak of Brahma, who never says like this. Indra, Vayu, the different demigods never say like this. Krishna is the one who said, I am the Father of all existence, I am the Mother of all existence, and I am the Grandfather of all existence. And he backed it up with his transcendental activities. Lifting Govardhan is just one little example. There's dozens and hundreds of these examples. But we're going to fast forward now to the Mahabharata. So, this is the story of Arjuna, the Bhagavad-gītā setting. And Arjuna's perplexed. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I don't know what to do. I'm lost. But Arjuna was very intelligent. Arjuna is the hero of the story of the Bhagavad-gītā. Krishna is the guru. So Arjuna did one thing very well. And it's a quick backstory. But you know what Arjuna did very well? He picked Krishna. Even when it would have been the intelligent thing to pick the army of Krishna. So here's the way the story goes. There's two sides in the battle, and there's the 5 brothers, the Pandavas, and Arjuna is Krishna's dear friend, and then there's the 100 cousin brothers, headed by Duryodhana. And Krishna is like the third party. And Krishna is the greatest hero in the world, the greatest master of mystics everyone knew. And Krishna has this powerful army that's called Narayani Sena, which means gods on earth, warriors. And he had like hundreds of thousands of these. And Krishna said, so Duryodhana and Arjuna, these are the two teams in the battle that sets the Bhagavad-gītā. The Duryodhana team, and we're not going to get into the depths of the story, but just the essence. The Duryodhana team and the Arjuna team. They both go to see Krishna. And Duryodhana sits at Krishna's head, he's resting. Krishna's taking a nap. He's playing. So Krishna's sleeping in the afternoon after his lunch. And his wife, Rukmini, is there with him. And Duryodhana shows up and she says, he's resting, you can sit and wait. So he takes a seat next to Krishna's head. And then Arjuna shows up about 5 minutes later, and he takes a seat next to Krishna's feet. As soon as Arjuna sits down, Krishna opens his eyes. Beautiful Krishna opens his eyes. And he sees Arjuna first. So he says, oh, Arjuna, my dear friend, you're here. And Arjuna says, no, I was here first. Whoever comes first gets to ask for the first, boon. So Krishna says, okay, Duryodhana was here first, but I saw Arjuna first. But Duryodhana says, I get the first boon. So you know what Krishna says? To one of your sides, because there are two sides now facing off for the battle royale of all history, the ultimate battle royale. So Krishna says, I'll give one of you my entire army of mythic warriors. The kind of warriors that one of them can take out 10,000. These are like angelic spirit warriors. He said, I'll give one side all my army. And I'll be on the other side and I won't lift a weapon. And I'll kill no one. You guys pick no. And Duryodhana says, I'll take the army. Done. Sign the check. And even before that, Arjuna was smiling. He said, Krishna, thank you. I pick you. I pick you. I pick you. And so now when the battle starts, Arjuna did one thing very well. He picked Krishna. He said, Krishna is saying, I'm God, I'm not going to interfere. I'll let it play out. But this ties back to last night, and I'll just mention this in brief. The second verse of the 4 most important verses of our main scripture, the Bhagavad. And you know what the second verse says? I think this is 2:934. Bhagavad. Rite artham yat pratyeta na pratyeta chatmani. Tad vidyadatmano mayam yatha bhasho yatha tamaha. It's a mind-boggling verse. Krishna says, whatever appears to have any value that you do not relate with me is actually illusion or maya. And he says, like a reflection in darkness, divorced from the light. That is illusion. So this is waking up in the dream. It's not escaping life, because that's not what Krishna told Arjuna. What is it doing? Plus God. Right? It's saying add God. Now it's real. This is what Krishna says there. Add God, now it's real. Rite artam yat pratyeta na pratyeta chatmani. Whatever you do that you assign value to. All right, I'll give you an example from America. At least the founding fathers had that much intelligence. They said, okay, in the representation of value, which is the dollar, we're going to put a sign that says, in God we trust. We're going to add God to our currency. So that now God's on our side. And look, America became a great nation or not. It's undeniable. America is a very powerful force in the world. Right or wrong, good or bad, they added God to the equation. And they kept it a bit of a mystery. They didn't say, in Jesus Christ we trust. They didn't say, in Allah or Krishna we trust. They say, in capital G-O-D, God we trust. And then they said, freedom of religion. They got it right. Freedom of speech. They got it right. Because if they're aligned with God's will, God grants free will. And so as founders of a great nation, if you don't give free will, you're going against God. So another thing where they got it right. All right? So now, Arjuna picked Krishna. Duryodhana picked his whole army. And Arjuna was now afraid to fight. He was afraid to fight. He wanted to run away. But his success was already guaranteed because he made the right choice. So we're not going to go further into the Gita. Let's leave it at that. But I told you I'm skipping stones across the river here, stories. Now I'm going to fast forward to the winding up of Krishna's pastimes. All right? When Arjuna was perplexed, Krishna showed the universal form. So it's not such a simple matter. We think, oh, Krishna was this little person, this mythical person who came, and there's all these great stories in the Hindu traditions, and Indians are a little bit like that, and this is what people think, right? We take life so cheaply because of our pride. My main feeling, and I'm not claiming truth, but I really feel like the world has too many people who know too much, who know too little, who think they know too much while actually knowing pretty much nothing. All right? The truly wise would say, who knows? And the truly realized would say, wow. The more realized you get, the more O's you'll put in your wow. It's like, wow, 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 wow. It's beautiful. Right? The scientists get it. The more the frontier of science is pushed forward, and especially with the ones who see through it, they just say, wow. You hear it in statements of Isaac Newton, for example. I believe this is Isaac Newton. I don't even claim I know it's true, and who knows if he said it. But it said he said it, or I think he said it. Doesn't matter. But you know what he would say? I'm standing on the shore of the ocean of truth. And wow. That's not a direct quote. And the other, like Einstein and so forth, they say we're all standing on shoulders of giants. And wow. Truth is, there is so much more than we know. Do you know what's going on in the quantum level? Do you know what's going on in the mental, the physical? We think it's just this. And here we are, and there's a table, and a person, and other persons, and a stand, and a phone, and this and that. And that's reality. Right? We're on, okay, I'll give you an example from let's use something like a fruit. All right? Whatever, I'm just going to use something random. a kiwi. Okay, random intuition here. We're on the, you know why I said kiwi? Because you know the kiwi skin is so thin. The skin of the kiwi is just like paper. Right? Here we are. Go deep down into the earth. Go up into the sky. Go in all directions. The great spirits, the great mothers, the sky, the earth, the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, all existence in all directions. This is what the Hindus got it right. The Hindus are the closest to the scientists of all the old religions. The Hindus created the numeral system. The Hindus created zero. The Hindus created, they say, oh, the universe is like 13 trillion years. They have such an exact science about time. The Hindus' time is, they say, the amount of, you know what their second is? We say 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds. That's how we get to milliseconds, 1/10 of a second, like that. You know what the Hindus say? The smallest amount of time is the time it takes for a particle of light traveling at the speed of light to cross over an atom. That's how the Hindus think, the ancient seers. How long does that take? What's the speed of light? How long does it take for light to cross over the breadth of one atom? So that's how the Hindus think. And then you know what they say? So they go from that period of time to 311 trillion, 432 billion, and so forth. And they say, that's the life of one cosmic cycle. This is how they think. And they're humble about it. This is one thing I learned from my guru as a kid. Not as a kid, but when I joined the temple, so still a kid, but like 18. Let's be honest, still a kid. So you know what he would say? I shouldn't learn, I shouldn't study, I should stay humble. He said, no. He said, an ant is very proud. He said, everyone has pride. He said, become truly wise, then you can become humble. Because then you'll know, what do you really know? All right, I challenge you, if you learn all the knowledge in all this world, it's just going to make you more and more and more confused. Right? Study every religion, read every book ever written. Right? Imagine you were ChatGPT 4. You would go bloody mad. Because now what do you know? So I ask, forget you're a Christian or a Hindu or a Muslim or a Jew or an atheist or whatever, and you just have all knowledge. You know everything that has ever been written or ever been said. You can hold that all together and come to a conclusion of truth. So you're either going to go, nobody knows. Or you're going to say, this one's right, everyone else is wrong. Or you're going to say, I have a headache, give me some tea. Turn the thoughts off. Right? My guru said, true knowledge leads to humility. All right? So Krishna, master of mystics. What time is it? Do I have more time?
It's 8:43.
Okay, 8:43. I have at least 17 minutes. Mostly I'm just trying to entertain our deities and our gurus. Right? We have Krishna here. We have our gurus here. I'm just a little kid, so I'm trying to, they're like, I'm in the examination booth. That's how I usually feel when I speak, especially if I'm in a temple. It's a very holy place. I have all these scriptures behind me. I have our deities here. I have books on the wall. I have Tulsi Devi. I have everyone here. So I feel like, like I'm their investment. They've spent 30 years now on me. I'm serious. My gurus have spent 30 years on this project because I got initiated in 96, so it's 2025. So I'm a 30-year and I'm very slow. So it's like the investment is bearing fruit very slowly. But it's my job. If I don't do it, I'm now dishonoring them. They told me very strongly, teach, share what you know, and in your language. You said, you're a Westerner, maybe they'll understand it from your relative perspective, because it's like you can see me and you easier. Here I am. So anyhow, getting to the scary story. And I probably won't get to the Matrix and the Titanic, but maybe I'll just touch on it and then end. We'll have to wait till next week. I love this story, all right? So in the end of Krishna's life, you know what he does? After the Mahabharat's over, the big battle, everyone died, and then Krishna had this huge family. Again, something people can't really understand. He married, there were 16,000 princesses that were kidnapped by this great demon. All the beautiful princesses of the whole world were kidnapped by this demon. And it's a long, beautiful story, but I'm not going to get into the details of it. Krishna saved them all. They all prayed to him to save them from this horrible demon that was trying to do what demons do. Krishna saved them all. And what happened is, no one would marry them because it's Indian culture and they think, oh, these girls, they were all kidnapped by the demon. Who knows, he raped them or not. They're not, So they all prayed to Krishna. First of all, they were all in love with Krishna because who is not? He's Krishna. Like Krishna is described to be the all attractive. And so, if you were to meet Krishna and you're other guy, like, you get the best women, whatever's else left, I'll go for that, Krishna. It's like, can't compete with Krishna. If you want to be fair and good to people, it's like, all the women are going to want Krishna. And Krishna's he's God, so you know what he did? He's like, yeah, no problem. So as God, and the master of all mystics, he manifested 16,000. If people don't believe it, it's fine, but it's still a beautiful story. And this is our faith, so I'm telling it. But I don't mind. But just embrace the story for a moment. So it said that Krishna manifested 16,000 forms that were all able to be like himself. That means they're not clones of himself. They're fully autonomous, sentient beings. You understand? And there's another story from his childhood where he did the same thing. And this time he did it with millions of his friends and his cows. So this is not like the first time Krishna did this. This is and I'll give you you want an even more wild story, just a tidbit. Our Swami Prabhupada here, you know what he said once? He said that every second God is appearing in another universe. Forever. Like, is that true or not? It doesn't matter. It's a conception that's supposed to open your mind up a bit. He said that every second God is appearing in another universe. That's the Vedic conception, the Hindu conception. It's like, now you sit and meditate. Understand. That's why I wrote, as a kid, I am a speck within a speck. Even if I was God of this universe, how's that matter? It doesn't matter, because this universe is described to be, this is again the Hindu conception, it's not my conception. It said that this universe is like a bubble, like if you have a bubble bath, it's like a bath bubble in the ocean of all existence. And it's lasting for one breath of God. So these are not my knowledge. I like to do this because I like to open us up a little bit more. Let the flower of your consciousness bloom. So from a budding stage to blossoming stage is the Hindu idea. Without any drugs, you can do it. Right? Because then you can meditate and chant the names of God and really understand God and connect with God. And we say if you love God and realize he's in your heart and he's everywhere within and without, and you connect God to your life, you become, this is the secret of our faith, you connect to God through love and devotion. He reveals himself to you. And it said, through the power of that divine love and connection between the Spirit to the Great Spirit, you tap into God's infinite love, infinite reality. You can be present with God in his infinite realities throughout infinite time. Now you're not dreaming. This is what I mean waking up in the dream. Realize God, realize yourself, become bliss. What does it matter if you're a speck within an infinity of infinities? You're with God. And it's blissful and it's love. It said when the spark connects to the great fire, right? You experience, it said that God cannot understand the bliss that the tiny soul experiences when meeting him, because he experiences everything as part of him. And so when you take this little soul and it realizes God, which is infinite bliss and infinite love and infinite, then the bliss that enters that soul, that's what creates awakening. because it breaks the shell of the body. And that's when you go from ecstasy to the divine love body, and then you become the light body. This is how it's actually described. I'm using layman's terms. But in our life, we say, in our devotional path, the goal is to go into the bliss body. That means bhav. And then from that, that's the highest stage. It's called the anandamoy kosh, the bliss body. You have the food body, the meat bag. Then you have the breath body, pranamaya. And then you have the mind body. Then you have the intelligence body. Then you have the bliss body, love, the heart, the center of all existence. And when you can forge your soul together with God, be the real seer, which means look inside and see God. I recommend, look in the mirror and don't look at your face. I am the soul. God, how can I see you? This is the body this is my present incarnation, my present body. But I believe in you, God. You are the great spirit. You are without, you are within. And I'm sorry that I've divorced myself from you. But what I'm going to try to do now is connect you to my life so that I'm no longer in illusion, separate from you. And it said that the real source of suffering is separation from the great spirit. That's the real source of suffering. The original ontological source of suffering for the soul is because you are a spark of the great fire, and you left the great fire, and now the spark went out. That's what happens. You take a spark from a fire. All right, we make fires here all the time. You take a little spark from the fire and put it in a little cup and cover it, and then go for a walk. Where'd that spark go? But if you closed it very carefully, the matter didn't disappear. Law of potential, right? Kinetic energy, potential energy, second law of thermodynamics, nothing's destroyed. Take that little dark spark now that became in Maya, illusion, and bring it back to God. Through introspection, through realization, on the human platform of life on earth, you can do that. Now that spark is connected to the great fire. You're still the spark, but you're connected to the great fire. And it said that when you transition, that's why, they say the gurus, they have to be very careful when they come to this bliss stage, they push themselves back down. Because it's very dangerous. If you let yourself fully go into the bliss stage, what happens is your body very quickly starts going into the light body, and it starts disintegrating, the kidneys, the liver, right? Because you're achieving full metamorphosis. And so our realized gurus, they push themselves back down. They don't cry and shake and shiver in ecstasy. They're saying, no, I have a job to do here on earth. They do like this. And you connect this to the gopis. The gopis say, oh Krishna, I'm crying in so much ecstasy, it's blurring my vision. I can't serve you nicely. Let me cry less. So the gurus push it down. And they just become this normal person. The Buddhists say, before liberation, chop firewood, fetch water. After liberation, chop firewood, fetch water. Because as long as you got your duty on earth, you got to stay here, right? When you reach that bliss stage, if you don't bring it back down, like the temperature keeps going up, and the bliss goes up and going up, and then that infinite bliss and infinite love of God, eventually it enters the body to such an extent that the light bulb shatters. The body becomes, right? That's when, and there's gurus like that have done that in their life. There's one guru who was speaking, his name Madhvacharya, the founder of a great school. And at the end of his life, he was speaking with so much bliss and so much absorption that it said all his disciples were throwing flowers on him. And it seemed like flowers were raining from the sky, petals. And everyone's blissful, 10,000, 20,000, it's so beautiful, so blissful. And he becomes covered in the flowers. And they say, oh no, we got to move the flowers from Gurudev. They moved the flowers, he was gone. We've seen many, like this is a mystical example, but there's practical examples like this also. Right? That's the highest level of waking up in the dream. And there's one quick example I'll give, a practical example through visualization. We have a saint called Shamananda. This is hundreds of years ago. So this is told by his disciples. He would go into such deep states of internal samadhi, visualization, but real samadhi, connection, not just the visualization, but the real connection, soul and great spirit. He would be performing the color pastime with Krishna, holy, throwing colors in the spirit realm. when his disciples would see, he would be closing his eyes, meditating, and then his body would be covered with these flower pollens on his cloth. And they were watching him. Imagine you're a group of disciples watching, and your guru's in trance, and all of a sudden his cloth is just filled with all the colors of, it's like just appearing. And the fragrance, and then he opens his eyes. And you can't ask him what he's doing. You're respectful. You're just like, okay, pranam, go back to my room. There's many stories like this. This is real. This is our tradition. I don't care if it's real or not. I'm serving in it. I believe in it. It's real to me, and it's blissful. Okay? So now we'll end with a scary story. I'm trying to get to the scary story, but I'm just in the bliss stories. But this is a good story, because Krishna had to wind up his tail. So he marries the 16,108 princesses. They each have 10 sons, daughters. He makes them beautiful palaces by his mystic powers. They all live, and he's multiplied throughout the earth. And he's going to leave, because everything is, life is a stage. And he knows that he has his spiritual plane to go to, and this material world has its next destiny to fulfill. This world isn't meant to be where God lives all the time, in his incarnations. So Krishna has to wind up the drama of his life. And he's worried if he leaves his whole family line here, most of the souls that came in his family line were demigods who incarnated. He said those gods on earth, their descendants would wreak havoc. There's a famous saying in Joseph Campbell, Hero of the Thousand Faces, all this kind of ideas, that the hero has to know when to exit the stage before he becomes a villain. He has to know when to bow out. Krishna's the most expert. You know what Krishna does? He incites this battle between all his family members. The men, they all wipe each other out. There's only like a handful of his family left. His grandson was left, Vajranab, and then he was the one who established Krishna deities. He established 4 Krishna deities, and then the Krishna faith tradition began. Everyone else is gone, wiped out in this epic battle within like a few days. Millions of Krishna's family members. This is in all our great epics. Most people just can't understand. How is it possible? And then you know what? That huge city he created, Dwarka, collapses in the ocean. Within a few weeks, sinks. Dwarka gone. So now my guru tells a story. And I'll end with this. My guru tells this story. He said, once upon a time, there was a kingdom. And the king and the queen arranged for magicians to come and do a performance for them, to entertain the princes and princesses and the king and queen and all the courtiers and the ministers. So you imagine now there's this beautiful assembly, and there's king and queen and prince and princesses and all the courtiers and the ministers in a great hall. Beautiful stage, beautiful kingdom, beautiful, think of it like Carnegie Hall, the best stage. Now everyone's seated and watching, and on the stage comes out a family troupe of magicians. There's a father and a mother and a few kids, brother and sister, a few kids, like 6 or 7. So they do this amazing magical display. It goes for like 20, 30 minutes. Everyone's clapping, everyone stands up, wow, woo, like that. Everyone's freaking out. So you know what the queen does? She takes off this beautiful gold necklace with beautiful diamonds and rubies and sends it with her servant. And she sends it to the wife of the family. So his wife, husband, kids. And it's a really sweet little moment and touching, and they're looking at it, and all of a sudden they start tugging. Who gets it? Does the wife get it? Does the father get it? Especially the kids, the boys. The boys start tugging at the chain. And the girl, and then the mom and dad, they're all fighting and arguing. They start shouting. They start shouting and this and that. And when they were doing the previous magic trick, they had swords and this and that. So the 2 boys, the 2 brothers take up swords and they start fall down dead. And then the father, he's so angry. And then the wife is so upset. She's crying. Why are you fighting over this? She dies. And now the dad's like, he dies. Now there's one girl left, and she goes, she dies. And there was no time to stop it. So there's the kings, like, the queens, the prince and the princess. Everyone's rushing the stage, this and that. And then, you know, the soldiers, everyone comes and cleans up the bodies and moves them off and takes them off the stage and wipes the stage. And everyone's like, okay, time to go to bed. That was intense. 3 months pass, and a letter comes in the post. Dear King, you paid us for the first act, but not the second. That was it. So then our Gurudev said, this is what Krishna did. He said, oh, we're so attached. We think this and that and this and that. So he said, at the end of the life, we all have to die. The question is, what's your next destination? What's your next destination? So he said, Krishna's just playing a magic trick. He's master of all mystics. Reality is much more than we can understand. We know that we live, we breathe, and we die. The question is, what do we do? How do we live this life? What do we do beyond this life? A lot of it depends on how you live this life. All right? Oh, I don't believe in reincarnation. Well, the scientists do. You know what the scientists believe? Okay, you go in the grave. You know what happens to your body? It reincarnates. Yeah. The bugs eat it and you become a bug. Or it becomes a tree or this or that. It composts, fire to fire, air to air, water to water, breath to breath. Matter reincarnates, so why wouldn't spirit? So you're bound to believe in reincarnation if you believe in science, material or spiritual, one or the other. If you're a spiritualist, we say there's spiritual reincarnation. If you're a materialist, thermodynamics says matter doesn't disappear. Yeah. Right? So there's more to life than we can understand. Right? I didn't get to my pop culture stories, but just I'll leave it to Titanic, right? Oh, the big Titanic, it crashed. Oh no, everyone's dying. If there was a sadhu on board, he would be smiling. Great, I get to go to my creator. My duties are over. You know, it's like playing music. We would be doing kirtan. Haribo, Haribo. Detached. God is the controller. All right? This is what the Gita teaches us. Become the observer, then try to meditate on what to do in your life. Pray to God, pray to your gurus, pray to Great Spirit, what to do. But remove yourself one step. This is just a body. I'm in this body. Oprah talks about this, right? We are not, we are spiritual beings in human bodies, that idea, right? So we become a little detached. We become the observer. That's when, next week we'll talk about the Matrix. The whole idea is that what? You want to become the one, the Neo, you have to understand there's much more to life than you understand. You have to get your Guru Parampara, you have to plug in. You have to understand reality a little bit better. And you know what we say? This is really my belief. Don't try to be the hero. Try to zoom out a bit. The Hindus created the zero. All the heroes come from the zero. Infinite potential, infinite space. That's the Shakti Tattva. Everyone wants to be God, the Purush, the prime entity. Right? Understand we are just divine energy. Fall in love with God. That's our philosophy. We are divine love, energy, and consciousness and bliss. We say we are Sat Chit Ananda, eternal existence, eternal consciousness, eternal bliss. But do you want to activate your bliss? Fall in love with the prime consciousness, the original consciousness God. And then your little spark, it cannot stop loving the supreme spark if it focuses on it. You know what is love? It's like the law of gravity. We'll end with this, all right? What's the law of gravity? Right? Matter, attracted to the earth, right? You throw a rock up, it comes back to the earth because the big earth, bigger, attracts it. The fire goes up to the sun. Light a candle, where does it go? The fire doesn't go down, it goes up towards light. Finds its source. Where does the river go? Towards the ocean, its source. So we are little consciousness. God is the great consciousness. We are little spirits. God is the great spirit. We're all bound by love. We're all living love, right? Who is the agent of action in the Matrix? Trinity, the love interest. I'll end with this pop reference. The love interest, that's what sets it in motion. Love sets life in motion. Man and woman come together. You can call it love, you can call it lust, I don't bloody care. It still sets life in motion. It's called the Kam Bij, the seed of desire. And it sets life in motion. So we say, rather than just loving each little spark, love the great flame, the great fire, the great spirit, then you can love everything and everyone without being bound by anything. Because you can recognize the divinity within it. Then you become self-realized, then you become bliss. Then you float in life. I've seen this with our gurus. They're just floating along life merrily as anything. So blissful. I'll tell you one Titanic story, and then we'll end. It's not a Titanic story. We know what happened. Titanic hit the iceberg, goes down. Right? And because it's based on exploitation, the rich survive, and the lesser class is, goes down with the ship. And because there were some good men there, a lot of the women and children went first, right? Theoretically, who knows? I wasn't there. Whatever. The point is, went to the bottom of the ocean. In our scriptures, we would say, if the souls that were very attached to those bodies became ghosts, the souls that were not attached got a new life. Too much attachment to the body, you become a ghost. Too much attachment to your possessions, you become a ghost. Too much attachment to your house, your castle, your kingdom, you become a ghost. Right? Donald Trump's be very careful. In next life, he doesn't become a ghost. And whoever else, political leaders, Putin. Most likely, Putin will be the great ghost of Russia. And he'll still be trying to fight with Ukraine and get back Crimea and whatever, Kyiv. And Zelensky should also be careful so he doesn't become a freedom fighter ghost. Because it's all Maya. It's all illusion if you're too attached. Why don't you want to go forward in life? I'll give you an example with the phone. I know I end up whining on and on and on and on. But bear with me, I'm only going to speak twice a week, I promise. If I speak more than twice a week, I'll just go off in my room and mumble with myself. Because I actually have to work on my guru's books, and I do a lot through dictation. And that's very niche. And so I'm always working on books. So this is my time to speak to whoever. So if anyone needs to go, go. If anyone's watching, watch. Leave, bye. But I'm going to finish the train. I'm going to let the train reach the station and end. Okay? Very mysterious. So one practical sadhu, that means a sage Titanic story. So there's a group of people going across a river in a boat. So I've done this, we get like Bengali, the Ganga is very wide. And so you put about 200 people on the boat, 300 people on the boat. And it takes about 20, 30 minutes to cross. And a lot of Indians don't know how to swim. It's like busy people. Who has time to learn how to swim? Whatever it may be, right? So in the middle of the Ganga, all of a sudden there's a massive storm. And these boats aren't like, the Titanic. They're just little boats that take you from one side to the other. And so the boat starts rocking and starts filling up with water, and it seems like it's gonna sink. And there's like 200 people, and the dads and the moms, what they do? They take off their shoes and they start shoveling out water. And there's one little humble mendicant sage. He has a loincloth, and he's just kind of like chanting the names of God, happy as a lark. And he's using his palms to bring in water. He's just singing his tune, like we sing, Jai Radha Ramana Haribo, Jai Jai Radha Ramana Haribo. And everyone's so freaked out that they're not trying to stop him, because what's one guy going to do against 200 of them? There's 200 people with shoes. You get these shoes and they're all scooping out water. He's not bothering them, they're not bothering him. Also, he's a sage, so you got to be careful with these kind of people in India. They know they have powers. So he's just bringing water in. And they're scooping it out, so it's like status quo, And then after about 10 minutes of this, all of a sudden the storm stops. The boat rights, they scooped out the water, they get close to the shore. As they're getting close to the shore, he's singing, Jai Jai Radha Ramana Haribo, Jai Jai Radha. He's scooping water out. So once they get off the boat, some of the guys come up to him, they're like, dear sage, when it seemed like we were going to drown, you were bringing water in. And we seemed like we got to the edge and we were going to be saved, you were taking water out. Why? He said, you know what, who am I to fight with God? I'm trying to help him out. And I don't know anything. I don't know God. I don't know what he wants. He's the greatest mystery. But when it seemed like it was our time to die, I wanted to give him a hand. And when it seemed like it was time that he changed his mind, I was just trying to give him a hand. He's attached. He's attached. It's not that we're not forcing that on other people, but this is the seer's perspective. Right? This is what Krishna says. What is night for most is day for the seer. They're detached. They understand there's a greater reality. The soul is on an infinite continuum of time and existence. And this is just a moment. And it's beautiful, and we should be very respectful and very careful of our life. Life is a gift given by God. If you leave your life early, then it said you become a ghost, especially if you end your own life. So I'm very strongly saying, right? Life is a gift. Don't harm a hair on anyone else's body and on your own. Because it's against righteousness, because it's a gift of God, and you're kind of saying, who needs your gift? Live it out and use it properly and advance. But we're all going to die one day. And if you live your life properly, after your death, you can reunite with God. That's our philosophy. All right? So we pray to our gurus for their mercy. We pray to them for their blessings, that they can guide us further on this path and this greatest mystery of life. Radhe Radhe, thank you everyone for your time. Hari Bol.